All right. So this will be, I think, the last video here. We're going to be making the rest of the configurations. So looks like on page 813 to 814, you're going to make another new configuration. This one's going to be eliminating all the features. So what we want to do here is, again, we're starting with what they call the default, or I'm calling the medium configuration. We've got our design tree here. The section view is suppressed, so that hides this feature from this configuration. So what we're going to do is go back to the configuration manager at the tab on the top right here. Again, make sure nothing's selected here. I'm going to right click and click add configuration. What do they want to call this one? Well, we'll just call it the suppressed for now, unless I can find it here. Yeah, they call it machine features suppressed. We'll just call it suppressed. Okay, so that's our configuration name is suppressed. I'll click the check mark. You'll see on our configuration manager here, now the suppressed version is selected. So again, we started out on the medium configuration. I created a new configuration, and so that new configuration is, for now, going to look exactly like the medium one because that's where we started. Now that I've created that new one, though, that's the one we're selected on. So what I can do is go back to my design tree, and just like we did with this cutaway that was suppressed, we can pretty much, the first one is where we made the body, the profile of the part. Everything after that was a feature that we added. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the first cut here right under where I made the profile. I'm going to hold the shift key. That's going to select everything in between these two. And then I'm going to select the last unsuppressed feature here. So that'll select everything in between those two. Then I can right click on it and I can click the suppress button. That'll make everything go away. So now we're just left with the profile. They're all still there on the design tree. They're just not showing. So it's as if they're not a part of this configuration. And that's all I need to do for this one. So now we've made a suppressed configuration. So that's one way to make new configurations, is you can suppress features. If you want one configuration to have more features than another, that's how you can do it. You can hide features, or if you really need to modify something more than you'd like to, you could just suppress it and redesign it and show one or the other, whichever one you want on a certain configuration. There's no reason I can't make a new feature right here on top of these suppressed features, and then I can choose which one I want to show and which one I don't want to show. So that's one way to modify configurations. And then I'm going to show you how we can make certain dimensions only apply to other configurations. So that's what we'll do in these next two here. So now I'm on page 815. It says optional. This is what I want you to do. This is in our class. This is not optional. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the medium configuration. We'll double click on that. Now I'm selected on that configuration. I can see all my features again. And I'm going to add a new configuration. This one's going to be called short. Okay. So from here, the short configuration, look at their drawings too that they have here on page 815. Some of their specs that they list out under each configuration aren't accurate. For example, long configuration says overall length 4 inches, but if you look at the drawing, it's 8 inches. So, I mean, use your common sense. It's supposed to be the long configuration. Obviously, it's not going to be shorter than the medium configuration. So we would assume it's supposed to be the 8-inch dimension, okay? I'm mainly looking to see that you make new configurations and modify them correctly. So if some of your dimensions are slightly off, as long as you did the modifying correctly, you just had the wrong number, I'm not going to grade you, mark you off for that, okay? But so anyway, we're on the short. We need this one to be 4 inches. So let's start with that. We want that to be 4 inches. The medium is 6, so we're taking 2 inches off of it. So go back to my design tree here. Again, I'm on the short configuration. This is the new one we're making right now. I'm going to go to the design tree, and I established that it was 6 inches long when I extruded the first sketch. So I'll go back to where I extruded it. So that's going to be editing the feature, not the sketch. And I'll change the 6 here to a 4. But before I do that, notice down here, if you scroll down a little bit, it says configurations, and you can choose this configuration, all configurations, or you can specify certain configurations. So if you want to do 2 of the 4 to have a certain length, you could specify which ones. In this case, I only want this 4 inches to apply to this configuration. So I'll change the toggle there to this configuration. Then I'll come back up here to the depth that I extruded at, and we'll change that to 4 and hit enter. The preview looks correct, so I'll click the check mark. So now you'll notice my linear pattern disappeared. I'm missing one of the holes here, and you can see on my design tree I have some issues there. I also am missing the 2 holes on the top up here. And then one of my pockets went away, which it was supposed to. But if we look at the sketch of the pockets, the third pocket's actually just off the part, which is why we don't see it cut into it, because there's nothing for it to cut into. This is why I don't like doing a sketch for something that you're going to be modifying like this, because then you have things hanging out here. Imagine if we wanted 4 pockets. I don't really have a way to modify this configuration to have 4 pockets without creating a new feature and cutting a 4th pocket. If I had done this as a feature pattern, then I could change for each configuration how many copies I wanted, but I did this as a sketch pattern, and that's why that's not really possible. So I wouldn't have done it this way, but this is how the book wanted it done, so we'll stick with that. So this is okay. We'll exit the sketch here. We need to fix the linear pattern. That has issues. So the issue is that we patterned something and patterned a feature off the part. It doesn't like that, so it's saying my whole pattern here is invalid. And same for the mirror, but we're going to fix the pattern first. So we'll go and edit the pattern. There's no toggle button like there was on the last one for this. What we're going to do is here where it says up here, number of instances, we're going to change this to 2 because there's only 2 bolt holes in this one. But we want this to apply right here next to the 2 or the distance or whatever. There's this button here, and we can change to this configuration. All configurations are specified just like before. So this one's going to be for this configuration only, because we still want our medium configuration to have 3 bolt holes. So we'll select this configuration, change it to 2. Our spacing has not changed, and that should be it there. So we'll click the check mark. So now you can see our pattern's back. That automatically fixed our mirror. You can see here. Just rebuild that real quick. Okay. So bolt holes are right. The mirror is good now because we fixed the pattern originally. The only thing wrong is these holes. We need the 2 over here. I don't need to redraw them. They're still here. Just remember they're out here in space where we don't have a part anymore. So that was part of this feature, but it's the sketch I need to edit. So I'll click Edit Sketch. You can see that my holes are just out here off the part. Now remember, I said that we changed from 6 inches on the medium configuration to 4 inches on the small configuration. So that's what we're going to stick with. Or it's a difference of 2 inches. So that's what we need to change, right? So quick math, if I want these to be in the same spot but 2 inches in, I'm just going to change my 5 to a 3. Before I do that, same as before, there's this button right next to the 3. We're going to click that and say this configuration. So that way it only changes to 3 inches in this configuration, because again, in the medium configuration, we want it to still be 5. Okay, so we've moved our holes there. That should be good. So we'll save and exit the sketch. Now my holes are in the right spot. If we go to let's go to a front on view here. You can see the pockets aren't centered, but if you actually look at the dimensions, it's kind of weird. It's not supposed to be. This is still supposed to be 0.625. This is still supposed to be 0.5. And then they actually show a dimension here that says 0.5, but that actually goes slightly off the part. It's not done very well here. So this is correct. These aren't supposed to be centered anymore. Just leave it like that. That's how it's supposed to be. Doesn't, kind of silly to me, but that's how it's supposed to be. So that should be all the changes for our short configuration. So just to show you, I'm going to go back to the configuration manager here. Here's our short one. If we click on the medium again, it's going to show us everything we had before. So there's our medium. Still looks the same. Nothing moved, even though we moved stuff in the short. And that's because we made sure we selected everything to be this configuration only as we were changing it. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the medium again because it's a good starting point. And I'm going to right click here and add another configuration. This one's going to be called long. You can see as soon as I create the new one, now we're selected on that. And so we're going to modify this to be our new long configuration. So similar procedures, couple different things here, but I'm going to edit the extrude depth again because this is 6 and we need it to be 8. So we've got this configuration selected, and we'll change the extrude depth to 8, and we'll click the check mark. Now you can see we got to push things out this time. So what needs to change in this one? Well, Hole Wizard has 4 holes on each side. So let's go edit our linear pattern here. We'll change the number of instances to 4, and it's already set to this configuration only. Click the check mark, and that'll populate over into our mirror as well. Okay, so we've got 4 holes. Looks like the spacing between these needs to change. So the gaps now are going to be 1.5 and 1.5 between the pockets. And I think you can ignore the dimension on the end down here. Once you have these spaced out right, that'll work. So where did I make the pockets? We'll have to go back and find it on the design tree here, and you're going to want to edit the sketch. That's where we had the spacing here. So I'll change my 1.5, or sorry, I'll change my 0.5 to 1.5. That'll give us the spacing. Meant to do that on this configuration only. So select this configuration and change it to 1.5. Okay, so now our pockets are spread out. And then I just need to push the holes on the top out. So same as before, let's go find the holes, edit the sketch, because that's where we have the locations defined. And this one, we started out at 6 inches, now we're at 8 inches, so just need to add 2 inches to this dimension. Make sure it's set to this configuration. So we're adding 2 inches to 5, which is going to make 7. That'll push them out to the right spot. We'll click the check mark, and there's your long configuration. So again, going back to the configuration manager here, we've got our long, we've got our medium configuration, we've got our short configuration, we've got the cutaway view of the medium configuration, and then we have a suppressed configuration, which is just the block with none of the features. So you can see once you get the hang of it, it's really pretty simple to make different configurations. The important thing to remember is that you select this configuration. Many of these changes are going to apply only to one configuration. So just be sure to select this configuration before you hit enter after you've made your changes. So, change the number of instances or change the length, and just make sure you select this configuration. And make sure you're on the appropriate configuration for what you're trying to make. Otherwise, you'll have to take some extra time to undo your changes in one configuration and then reapply them in another configuration. All right, so that's it. Hope that helps. So that's basically your whole homework. I did just walk through it for you, so hopefully you guys can get it. This one's a little bit more challenging to grasp at first, though. But once you get it, it should be pretty straightforward. If you have any questions or anything, just remember you can reach me on my cell phone. You can call me, you can text me, you can FaceTime me if you want. Give me a heads up if you're going to FaceTime me. You can text me or whatever, and we can set up a video chat on the computer, so I can put my screen on yours to show you specific things that you might have questions about. You can shoot me an email as always. And then once you get this homework done, so it should just be one homework file with all the different configurations in it like you saw here. Go ahead and email that to me like usual, or you can submit it through Canvas if you'd like. Either way, make sure your file is turned in by next Wednesday at 6 o'clock, and you should be good to go. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to help. Good luck, guys.